supremacy. You thought that you could finish ever. But my elders told me you're my mom, enemy. Sit down in energy to come at you relentlessly. And I won't give up to this justice for what you did to me. Crush you like the centipede, blessed with the strength, mark, and the speed. And the program that ends victory. Turn my woman and kids peace. And now she look at me like I don't protect her. I can't protect the seed. Ignorance is division, is what religion breeds. In my mind, it's deeper than all the seven seas. So with my time, I keep up and all you'll ever see is dead practice. In this dead melody, no childish ways of my violent ways. Make me put my life on the line before I die. Hey, I'm a look for truth in the sky. You can lie the grave. Either die from AIDS or die from a game. Either fight for freedom or die as a slave. I send you back for what you change. Turn your mind to the change. I denounce your Nazism and your Zionist ways. I speak the truth through my words and what I shot on the page. Yeah, this cracker said I was laid off and he broke out and he laid off. Best that is fight killing Jews like angels. White supremacy, they all the black president voting. I was hesitant because he ain't picked to represent the red, black, green, the colors I bleed. I keep fighting for my seeds for as long as I breathe. I'm supposed to be mean, but I'm all of my team. I'm taking shots of tequila and rolling the weed. Would you sell your dignity and risk it all for your dreams? I only roll with the strong, the hand of God at the scene. Forcing me cut from different fabrics, others saw from the scene. Even you food for thought, you can't draw from the king. Essential minerals I'm giving you, no pork or no rings. This is all alkaline, I never rhyme for the brain. Let's go.
Peace. Welcome to Message to the Black Fam program live on More on the Horizon. I know it's been a while since I've been able to broadcast. Been having some technical difficulties over the last few months, so I definitely want to send a shout out to my sister Nefertari for helping me out today so that we can get this program out to you. I promised my sister Jahari that we could do this about a month ago. And as I said, I was having technical difficulties, so I'm definitely happy to be able to keep my word and do this program today. I think that it's going to be very constructive, very interesting conversation. But before we go there, just going to do a couple of updates because there have been some things going on since my last program with Sister Freya, where we kind of went in on Danny the tranny. That heifer that thinks she's black and I'm trying to be down with this. One of Booker T. Coleman's friends. If you have not seen that, it's on YouTube. What did I name that? That show was called Who in the Hell Left the Gate Open? So you can definitely check that out on YouTube if you haven't seen it yet. We had a lot of fun on that program. But anyway, since that show, I have been busy, as usual, releasing books and working on books. So what we have available right now, the latest release is called Kafense's Private Parts. And I think that that's one of the most important books that I've done to date because it's actually a book that is based on protecting our children from sexual abuse. A lot of you may have bought Hands Off, which is a book that I wrote for parents about how to keep your children safe. However, this book, Kafense's Private Parts, is actually part of the Nelijah series. So if you've had Nelijah's Dolls and Nelijah's Sweet Treats, Bomani Stan, it's going to be those same characters. So it's very, very child-friendly and allows you to actually have the conversation with your children. A lot of people don't have a conversation with their children about how to stay safe from sexual abuse because they just don't know how. Well, reading this book actually gives a scenario, very mild, very kid-friendly, appropriate, nothing freaky, freaky going on, very child-friendly. It gives a scenario about how this happens and then actually shows the parents having the conversation with the child. So just by you reading this book, you're actually having the conversation with the child. I wanted it set up for those people who just didn't know how to broach the subject. So that book is actually available now. It's on Amazon, again, called Kafense's Private Parts. And in just a few weeks, the release that everybody's been waiting for since I got into all that trouble with the South Africans earlier this year, actually, back in January, February. Sankofa Super Heroes 2 is coming back. Now, it took me a while to come up with this because I don't like sequels. So a lot of times they're not as good as the first one, so I wanted to make sure that this was going to be as good as the first book, if not better. I wanted to be sure that I had the right mix of people in here. I always put in superheroes, at least one superhero that's still living, still with us, so that the children don't think that this is all in the past. Had some challenges finding the right one that saw the vision and that was worthy and that was down to do this. But I was successful in finding that elder, and I don't think I could have made a better choice. So we have all of that squared away now. The artwork is awesome. The people portrayed in there is awesome. And that will be available in about 2 weeks, I'd say. I did have a pre-order going on my website. A lot of y'all waited too long and you missed out. So now you're not going to be able to get the autographed copy, but you will be able to purchase that from Amazon in just a couple of weeks. And I believe War on the Horizon will have that too when they go around the country and they're speaking. You can get it there. So those are my announcements. I'm not going to be super long-winded, but I did just want to let everybody know that because I'm very excited about those books. I've been working very, very hard on it, and I'm glad to finally be able to release them. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Today we are talking about degeneracy and the Black woman. Now, we are not going to sit here and bash Black women and do all of that. That's not my style. I don't bash anybody, but there is a definite problem, and we need to find a solution to it. We're off the hook. I don't know what's going on. It's completely different than when I was growing up. I know that, and even people my own age, I'm looking around like, what is wrong with y'all? Because this used to not be how it was. It's like this was not cool back in the day. Where have our morals gone? Where have our decency gone? And where has our common sense and respect gone? It's like a thing of the past. I remember last year I was working at a place downtown, and it was a lot of younger people there, and I thought that I may be able to be some kind of role model to them. I was delusional, I guess. I didn't last too long at that job. These girls were just ridiculous. I think my last day there, when I finally said I'd had enough, there was a cracker that came in, and they were helping the cracker out, and somehow they got on the topic of sex. And the things that they were talking about with this cracker, I was like, you got to be kidding. They're in here talking about the music they like to listen to while they're in the act, and they like to do it like this and like that. And I'm just sitting here like, I'm going to have to go to the back because y'all acting like this is cool and you enjoy it so much. If this cracker even thinks to look over here like I'm going to engage in this foolishness or even bring that anywhere near me, it's going to be a problem. So after he left, I kind of talked to the girls a little bit, and they saw nothing wrong with it. When I say girls, they were actually adults, but anybody younger than me, I think of like they're a baby. So they were probably in their early 20s or whatever. And I'm just sitting there talking to them like, do you really think that that was appropriate? They saw nothing wrong with it at all. Oh, it's just flirting. No, that's not flirting. That's a step further, number one. Number two, it's a cracker. Are you kidding me? So I already kind of had this on my mind. It had been bothering me, but I wasn't going to do a show on it. I was just going to let it go. I wasn't thinking nothing of it. But then I think my sister Johari had a similar experience because she messaged me on Facebook like, look, we need to do a show like this week, and we need to talk about these women because they are so off the hook. And I said, well, I can't really argue. I'm having the same experience, and it's embarrassing to me because we are a reflection on each other. And when one of us is acting so indecent, so off the hook, it makes us all look bad. And so this is something that we need to address because it's not cute. It's not cool. So without any further ado, that's my side of the story, how it affected me and what made this an important topic to me. I'm going to bring on my sister, Johari Wisdom, who also is a children's book writer and has her own book out. So I'll let her tell you a little bit about that, and then we're just going to get into it tonight. Sister Johari, are you there?
Hey, sister, how are you?
Peace, I'm doing pretty good. What about yourself?
Doing well, doing well. I'm finally glad that whatever technical issues were going on, we got that cleared up because, as you just said, everything you just said, I'm over here on the phone line on the other end just nodding my head, and I'm just agreeing so much because it's so true. And I'm glad that I'm not the only one having these experiences that have me wondering what is happening, what is going on, and why do we even find this acceptable and tolerable? Because I thought I was the only one, and I was getting worried for a second, but clearly this is a widespread thing, so that makes me feel better to understand that this is not just me. This is really a widespread problem, and something needs to be, if not done about it, then at the very least addressed.
Exactly. It's not just you by any means. Truth be told, it was never my intention to write children's books. I came out with God's gift. I was going to come out with maybe 1 or 2 books after that, and I was about to be done. The reason I'm writing children's books so much is because to a certain extent, I am tempted to give up on adults because we act like we have no sense at all. So I think it's better to focus on the children and maybe give them a little bit of hope because we act like we're just gone. It just makes no sense. So before we get into it, can you tell a little bit about your book that you have out right now?
My book that I have out right now, I published it earlier this year in May 2014, and it is entitled I Can Count in Kiswahili. And it is only the numbers 1 through 10 because I plan on breaking them down into a book series featuring 10 numbers each until I get to the number 100. And it's a very simple, straightforward method of not only teaching children how to count, but teaching them how to count in an African language because I feel that that's very important. With them going to schools or just being, in a westernized society, they already know how to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. But they are taught that the only languages or foreign languages that there are to learn are languages that are Western, like French or Spanish or some variation thereof. And it's almost as if, because I know I grew up with this perception that there's no such thing as an African language. Like, where do you learn it? Where do you go to understand that? How do you find it? And it has you believing that there are people, they're Africans, but it's almost like, what do they speak? How do they speak? How do they communicate with each other? So when I realized that, I felt it was very important to not only write something that's educational, because that's my thing, that's something that's very important to me, is writing educational books that help with the foundation of learning, but also, learn in going back to our roots with, learning African languages and having that be as much a part of our vocabulary as, English, which has been forced upon us, is. So Kiswahili is just also one of my favorite languages, and it's a very simple, straightforward method. I plan on publishing the next one next month, hopefully, and you understand how the process of, I say I'm going to do it this month ends up turning into a long, drawn-out wait and complications, but hopefully before the end of 2014, I should have the second one out, and then it can resume with publishing them all the way until I get to 100 as I planned. So I'll be more than happy to share a link with you so that you can share it and people can go directly to either my Amazon page or my CreateSpace page. But I'm very, very, honored at the response that I've gotten from it so far, just because children are excited about learning. And learning in an African language, that just brings a very special excitement that shows me that, it's something that's needed. You have all types of children's books about everything else in the world that's not needed, but when they come across something that they didn't even realize they were missing, and they show their reaction to how much it means to them, that's what, and I'm sure you understand that as well. That's what makes it so very important and gives me the inspiration to keep on doing it because, it's about the children now. Because those adults, I don't know what to say about that. So it's definitely about the children, and, it makes me feel good to see the reaction that they have. And, you planning on retiring, but I'm planning on continuing for a long time going forward.
I hear you. Yeah, I think having 50 books, that's a bit much to me. I think I'm about ready to call it quits after next year. But so just so that we can get into this conversation, we on YouTube, we had a show on Beyonce, and it was popular. We got a lot of hits. But I just want to reiterate for those who don't know because sometimes a lot of young people are on YouTube and they think, that the only people that think like we do are old people who, just can't relate. I'm going to start by saying I am in my mid-30s. I just hit my mid-30s, so I am technically not old yet. Sister, how old are you now?
I will be 23 at the end of next month.
Okay, so all this is coming from two women who are not old whatsoever. We are in or near the generation that's coming up. And like I said, it's not just 20-year-olds. It's 30 and 40-year-olds. So it's not just a young thing. It's not just an immature thing. This has become our culture, I think, because we are listening to the media, we're watching these movies, and we're so happy to see anything black in the movies or on TV, like Scandal and all these movies where women are cheating and being whores. We're just so happy to see a black face that we'll accept anything instead of rejecting it and saying, no, that's not us. And not only do we accept it, but we become that. So I'm going to give you the floor. You go ahead and say what's on your mind, because I'm not even going to start going off. You know how I can get.
Well, you pretty much led into exactly the point that I was going to make, and I would add on to accept it and become it and add on celebrate it, because it's not just a fact of, oh, well, there's no problem with it, that's okay, and, then you start to embody it. It's like it's a celebration of this degeneracy. And I am somebody who believes in, if you want to talk about it and you want to speak on it, you at least need to have, know what it is and seen something of it, or, gone and done what I consider research. So I have seen the first season of Scandal. I have not seen the rest of it, the first and second season. I'm sorry. The first and second season, whatever the newest season is, I have not seen it because, that's exhausting. It's like, and I mean that in all seriousness, it takes me several months to watch those handful of episodes because there's just so much degeneracy and, so much, I don't even know a word for it, but it's beyond degeneracy. I can say that much. But it's so much of it packed into one episode that I watch one, and then I have to let it alone for another 6-7 weeks. And then I come back and I watch the next one because it takes that long to process it. And I don't see how anybody who is aware or just has any sense of decency or, or like they say, if you have any home training, how you could watch this show and think that it's something that is all right, something that's acceptable. And I think you're very right when you say it is the fact that it is a black face and a successful, or I suppose you could say their definition of successful. Their definition of a successful and accepted black person, that's why it is so very easy for them to overlook the fact that what is going on, in that show and other ones as well, but that one in particular is not acceptable at all. And, if that was anyone else except for a black woman, then they would have so much to say about it. So much to say about it in terms of, well, that's just awful. They crazy. They doing all kind of stuff. I don't know what's wrong with people lately. But they are quick to defend it because, oh, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with a black woman being able to do what she wants to do and, make her own decisions? And this line of reasoning that is really nothing more than a twisted justification for the fact that they are so desperate to see something of themselves in a society that, absolutely excludes and blocks them out of everything. Once they're thrown a bone, then they don't matter what is on that bone. That bone could be as diseased as it wants to. It can be carrying anything that it wants to, but because you've been thrown a bone, you'll accept it, and that's wonderful, and that's all okay. And the things that I have heard out of women's mouths when it comes to, not just their opinion of this show, but how that show has pretty much warped and affected their perceptions of things. In one pivotal point in Scandal is that at one point she had a good, decent black man who wanted to marry her. He proposed to her and everything, wanted to do right by her. And I remember this very distinctly. Kerry Washington's character very blatantly and very directly said she didn't want the normal, safe, happy, healthy kind of love. She wanted that all-destructing, consuming, wild, unpredictable, sweep you off your feet, don't know what it is, just so raw in its intensity kind of love that, changes everything about your world and your mindset. That's what she wanted. and it was made to seem like, yeah, that's something you should want. That's all well and good. When, like I said, if you have any type of sense, any type of decency, you should find something wrong with that. But it's a very subtle manipulation of women and their opinions in terms of the woman who's sitting at home and, she got herself, maybe not her ideal, but she has a very good, decent black man. And she has that safe, content, functional, working, logical, practical, it doesn't make her feel like she's floating on clouds every second of the day, but it's a very healthy, functional, and it gets what needs to be done and provides and fulfills her in her life. That's the type of love and the type of household that she has. Watching this type of stuff makes her think that that's not enough. That's not good enough for her. She needs more. She wants more. So that's where, I don't like to claim that, somebody watched the episode of this and that made them go out there and act a fool. It's more so the point that, after being, completely submerged in something like that and having your mind, subtly manipulated over such long stretches of time when it comes to things like this, because Scandal is the most visible one right now, but this is by no means new at all whatsoever. It makes it much easier for you to act on them impulses and act on those subconscious thoughts that you may not even realize are there, or you're looking for an excuse to act out and exercise. And so now it is becoming a problem in terms of staying in the flames, I guess you could say. So they're seeing, black women, our sisters, are seeing degeneracy left, right, and center, no matter where they look on TV, in the movies, in music, in the books that they read, which is, that right there is something that I feel like that personally offends me, because I find books as my refuge, because I don't watch TV, I don't go to the movies, none of that interests me. So I prefer books over anything else. But when I try to go to look for black literature, I'm finding black porn, like that smut. Like, you can't find decent, functional, healthy, positive black books, because everything that you go in the bookstore and find, it's just trash. That's what the genre of African American fiction is. It is that trash. So it's like you really can't go anywhere, and you really can't escape it in no means in terms of whatever it is we use to, used as a form of entertainment to cope with, dealing with all that we have to go through in this life and in society. You can't turn anywhere without coming across some form of degeneracy, because they really work overtime at sneaking it into everything. So, when it's coming from all directions, then after a while, it is understandable as to why it's like, that didn't take long for you to all of a sudden decide that it's okay to be acting in all kind of manner of appropriate ways, saying things that's not okay, and then that spills over into your actual actions and habits. And now this is a real thing. It's not just, something you see on TV. It's literally not you see on TV. It is something that is actually happening. So, I find it a very real problem that, we as black women consume a lot of media, and that's what our media is reflective of. Absolute degeneracy that, we don't have enough in us to reject that, because that's all we got. That's all we have, and that is a very real problem.
That's true, and that's the whole purpose of the entertainment industry at this point, is to plant those seeds in our mind so that we start to think that this stuff is cute. And it has gotten to the point where I know a lot of women who tell me, I don't know how you've been married so long. I would rather be a side piece than a wife. I mean, you got to cook, you got to clean, you got to be bothered with him. All I do is have a man around for what I want, and then he's gone. I don't have to take care of him. It's like we have no concept of being a real woman anymore. And I have to tell him I'm perfectly happy. If you happy running the streets, that's good. But I'm 9 years into this thing right here, and I'm happy to be in my little boring relationship. Shoot, we don't go nowhere. We don't do nothing. And we ain't working. We in the house watching Netflix, and that is okay with me, because that means we will both be here tomorrow. We safe at home, focused on our family and what we should be focused on, not running the streets, getting high, transmitting STDs and all this other madness that's going on. And it astounds me that so many women actually have this mindset. I've had to actually put a few women in their place. You know, there's a brother who, you know, for a while I've worked very, very closely with. And until recently, some people sometimes would assume that we were together. They knew that I was married, so they thought, well, that must be your husband. And, you know, I would say, no, that's not my husband. He's, you know, got somebody. This is my husband over here, whatever. And you would think that would be cool. But no, the minute they find out that that's not my husband, all of a sudden, oh, he's fine, he this, he that. Start talking to me like a straight whore. And I've had to put them in their place. Like, did you not hear me say that the brother has somebody? Actually, not just one. These brothers have somebody. You know, no, it ain't going to be no hookup. No, I don't want to hear you think they fine. That's disgusting to me. Do you realize that they have somebody? But that's that same thing. They don't want to put anything into a relationship to help that relationship blossom. They would rather have somebody's leftovers. And then these are the same women who are so miserable they complain there's no good men around, all this other BS about black men. But look at the kind of woman you are and tell me why you think that you would have a black man, a good black man. Tell me what you think a good black man would see in you. There's been people who have read God's Gift, How to Be a Good Black Woman to a Strong Black Man, my first book. And in that book, there's a chapter on sexual relations, and I tell people that you should really postpone having sex with somebody until you know them very, very well, until you are ready to make a commitment. Before that, you spend time investigating them, but you should not be intimate with somebody before that point. I've had so many women come up to me and say, well, you know, what if he's not this and that, and what if he can't do this and that? And I'm sitting here thinking, like, do you hear yourself? Why do you have so much experience that you like the world's expert? You like Dr. Ruth now. You sound like a cracker. You're telling on yourself. You shouldn't be living in such whoredom that that's the first thing you think about. You got a good black man, but you worry that he ain't going to be able to keep up with so-and-so and so-and-so, the other 100 people that you've had experience with. That's a problem. We don't realize sometimes that the things that come out of our mouth tell on us because we live in a culture that's so permitting of anything. And it just makes me sad because when I was little, I always dreamed about growing up, getting married. That's what I wanted to do. That doesn't seem like a priority or even a desire for women anymore. They seem like they are perfectly content for being, I guess, a side piece or whatever, just having friends with benefits, but no stability and no family. And then we have these children looking up at these women and men with this mentality, and I wonder what the future is for them.
And that's very, very true, and I'm glad that you touched on that, you know, you tell on yourself when you speak of, you know, what you're wondering about what he can't do. Or, you know, with sex being the first and foremost thought on your mind in terms of a make or break, you made sex your non-negotiable. And I was recently thinking about this, and this is something that is, like, I realized this very much so in my own generation, is that there's this term that I would really love to address, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well, because this is a very, very very insistent thing that I'm seeing all the time, more and more, and not just from black females, but males as well, but, you know, primarily black females, is this term called being sexually liberated. And when you see, and you already understand where I'm going with this, is, you know, being sexually liberated for whatever reason that is extremely, extremely important. Like, you know, my they constantly talk about my sexual liberation, being sexually liberated. It's very important for me as a person that, you know, nobody get in the way of me and me being sexually liberated, and so on and so forth. And so, you know, that's when critical thinking comes into play, because when I hear something like that, in my mind the first thought is, what are you being liberated from sexually? What does that even mean? What are you even talking about when you say that? And then when you really sit down and you think about it, and you go back and you understand how we even got to this point, that is a term of deepest confusion that I have ever come across in my life, because you're not being sexually liberated from anything. You're actually being sexually enslaved to a whole lot of degeneracy that you never would have even thought about before. If, in fact, you hadn't come across white people, you know, crackers, and their form of perversion and being sexually liberated. And I think that this is also why this is a very, very big problem, because in the pursuit of sexual liberation, you are liberating yourself of your inhibitions. Change out the word inhibitions to standards. So you are liberating yourself from your sexual standards, and then when you have no sexual standards, then you're open to any kind of sexual perversion that may come your way. And that is something that I noticed so much in my peers. You know, I'm doing this. Me and my boyfriend are doing this. Me and my man are doing this. And then when you listen to them, they're like, but, you know, I don't really want to, or I don't really enjoy that. That's just what he wants to do. And so it is becoming a thing to whereas you will, again, going back to desperation, you are so desperate to, you know, have what you consider your non-negotiable and your priority in life, which is sex. Because, you know, this generation of females and, you know, the one before and definitely the ones that are coming up after us, they are so hypersexualized that sex has become a non-negotiable, a priority in life. So, you know, it's a thing to whereas, you know, we're open to any kind of sexual perversion that we come across, no matter, even if we see it and our first instinct is that is not something I would even consider doing. Whoever came up with this, why is this even a thing? You know, but of course, you know, because you're open to whatever sexual perversion that you come across, you accept it, you embody it, and then you celebrate it. So it is a real, real problem that you have all of these shows like Scandal, sleeping with white people. So that's an actual acceptable, you know, thing that should be embraced and celebrated, and that's wonderful and that's good. You know, we should do that. That's wonderful. Sleeping with white people. Then you go to, I haven't seen this movie, and I think I refuse to because that's just crossing a line, even though my coworkers are like, we should all go see it. And one of my coworkers felt the need to call and leave me a voicemail because I was deliberately ignoring her text message about going to see Addicted. That is not a movie that I'm about to go see, because I have read that book, and that book was not even something that should exist. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, for them to make a movie out of it, that must mean that it has just gone past all kind of, you know, bounds and limitations of decency and, you know, any kind of right and exactness. So I'm just like, but this is popular. This is good. This is wonderful. And, again, it goes back to being hypersexualized. Sex is a non-negotiable and it's your priority in life. And so that's just, you know, more and more perversion, more and more sexual liberation. And that is where a whole lot of degeneracy comes in, because when you are sexually undisciplined, then that just spills over into so many other things in life. And then it's a reflection upon so many other areas of our community. And I just feel like that is a real problem with this term sexual liberation. It's just two words, but it leads to like a whole rabbit hole of things that I never even would have thought would be our reality at this point, but it is.
Well, I tell you what, I'm the kind of person, I'm sound real nice on air, but in real life, I'm really not that nice. Somebody come to me talking about some sexual liberation, my first reaction is, okay, you a fag. They can get upset if they want to, but you tell me you looking for some sexual liberation, you a fag or you about to be a fag, one or the other, because that's what it boils down to. It's got to be an end to your experimentation. And when you're telling me you sexually liberated, that means you down to do whatever. So female, male, whatever, to me, you a fag. And it's probably going to go beyond that. Like, I say fag in my mind because that's like the end point for me. I don't really see beyond that. But nowadays, it goes beyond being a fag. Like, when I was coming up, a fag is the worst thing you could be. Like, it wasn't no worse than that. Like, anything other than that was some weird, crazy white people stuff that we couldn't even fathom. But now that's not even the end point. It goes past that. So I really caution anybody to come around me talking about they want to be sexually liberated or they're into sexual liberation. To me, you just a fag. You ain't going to get no respect after that. Again, like you said, we have to think about what we're saying. We need to think about the words that we're using because they say a lot. For you to even think that you need to be sexually liberated, it's something going on in your mind. Or nothing going on in your mind, actually. You're blindly following these white people trying to be just as whorish as they are. And I'm sorry, that's a problem. That's unacceptable. And that's why, like, I'm on Facebook and I see people all the time. I posted today or yesterday, I think, like, we need a Sankara That is what we are in need of. We need somebody representing decency and strong leadership. But we would rather follow somebody that's more like Luke. We want Two Live Crew up in here. That's what we want to follow, even the nationalists. I'm sitting here trying to figure out why somebody that advocates rape and child molestation and is basically a pimp has so many followers, and the people who advocate decency, they might have 5 or 6. I don't understand why even the most enlightened of us are drawn to this filth. It's disgusting, and it's something that we need to check in ourselves. And it's true of the men too, but I focus on the women because we are the first teacher, and whatever direction we go in is the direction that our nation is going to go in. How does a little boy feel looking up to his mother and there are different dudes running in and out of her house all the time? How does a person feel about their mother when the mother can't even tell them who their father is? You can't even give them that to know their lineage. You're not even decent enough to make sure that you know that. And you don't just do it once and make a mistake and say, I'll never do that again. You do it over and over and over again. So you got 5 different children and maybe have guessed right about the paternity of one. It's despicable. And nobody really wants to talk about it. We joke about it like it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. We're undermining the security and the stability of the Black family. And I hear a lot of Black women say, well, Black men do it. Why don't you talk about Black men? If Black men want to be low down and nasty, that's on them. But the thing is, I was taught that you always do your part. You always make sure that the blame doesn't come back on you. Your man might be acting a fool. Okay, don't matter. Make sure dinner's cooked. That way when he's done acting a fool, he'll realize that you were still civilized and you have the upper hand. You never go down to somebody else's level when they're in the gutter. You don't go to the gutter with them. And so now our men are looking at us like we are completely unworthy of respect, and they have a point, even though they're guilty of a lot of things too. But at least if we were decent, they wouldn't have that to say. Yeah, they still may have their little white woman fetishes and they still might be into their stuff, but they could never say our Black women are undeserving, our Black women are whores, because we have always had the moral high ground. It's recently, the last decade or two, that we've given that up and we've said to hell with it, and we see where our community is gone.
Yes, and that's very, very true. And I would take it a step further and say that for all of the women who say, well, what about Black men? And aren't they to blame? And shouldn't you be talking to them as well? Let me tell you something. We as Black women have far more power than we understand, and we've let the world convince us that we don't, especially when it comes to our own men. So if we as Black women have made degeneracy the standard of our being, then guess what that tells our men, that it's okay to allow and to treat us as and to reflect upon us. However, if we took it in the other opposite extreme, the correct extreme, and said, none of this is going to continue happening until, you clean up your act because I've cleaned up my act and we're both acting civilized, that would help so much in raising the nation. That will help so much in evening out the problems that we have in our community, because of the fact that because when we accept what is going on in terms of degeneracy and filth and making that our standard and way of living, then that tells brother he don't have to try. He don't have to do anything. He doesn't have to have any type of character, any type of respect about himself, any type of centeredness, any type of decency or nothing, because you don't have it for yourself. And he looks at that and he sees that you're not putting in the effort, so tell me why I should put in the effort. So, we are complementary. We're complementary because we follow each other's leads. So this is what we're showing them, and so they're not trying and we're not trying, so nobody's trying. Nobody's putting in any effort. So when we look around and we're like, what is going on in terms of, we don't have any good men, all of this, lack of protection, lack of, good, solid, decent, righteous, respectable Black men. Well, Black woman, what are you doing? How are you acting? What is it that you are doing in and outside of the home that tells him, you know, you doing it, so it's okay for me to not only come home and do that, but leave out the house and do that, and I can still come back home and do that. So, like, you know, if you don't have any standard for yourself, then that means that you don't have any standard for others. And when you don't have any standard for others, then that means that it is absolutely acceptable for them to do whatever it is they want. And, you know, again, it's a balance. You know, and some sisters here that says blame. You know, but it's not blame. It's not pointing fingers. It's simply stating facts. You know, we are the biggest defenders of degeneracy. And that is such a real statement that will send so many sisters into like a defensive overdrive because of the fact that we don't want to take personal responsibility for the fact that that's true. And if we were to take personal responsibility, that's not going to miraculously change anything overnight, you know, because there's still work to be done. There's always work to be done. There's going to continue to be work to be done. But then it helps once we're like, okay, I could be doing better. And like you said, you know, you worry about you. You do your part, and then that shows that you're putting in the effort. You're being civilized. So when he continues to act uncivilized, then you know it really is him. It's not a matter of circumstance. It's not a matter of, oh, that's just how things are. It really is him as a person and his character, you know, as that particular black male that is being, you know, just low down and degenerate. That's on him. And at that point, since you're being civilized, what more can be said? Because you set that standard, you know, he's not able to raise himself to that standard. So then that tells you what you need to know so that you're not wasting time being unproductive and continuing to pass on this cycle that is making for the next generation being so far beyond anything that I've ever seen that, like you said, it just makes you wonder, what is the future going to be? What is that even like?
Very true, very true. But I would like to say, you know, that's wonderful, and I agree with everything you say. But the reality of it is, a lot of these women don't want good men. They like their position. I've had so many women say, you know, oh, I like your husband, but I couldn't be with somebody like him. He's just too nice. I couldn't be with somebody like him. We seem to want the one that's going to knock our teeth out, drag us down the street by our weave, throw us in an abandoned building and set it on fire and burn us up. You hear about us on the news next day. That's what we want. And it's something like, I don't even know if it's conscious or if the media has just implanted so many seeds in us, but a lot of black women, not all, because there's some that still have sense, but a lot of black women want this super violent, effeminized, because we think that it's being masculine, but it's really not. It's really a feminization. These effeminized faggots who are just destructive, have nothing good to offer, will sit around, let you go to work all day, come home, you know, he's eating your food, he's sitting on your couch. We want that kind of low-life degenerate, and we will pass up decent brothers because they're too quiet, they're too boring, they're too nice. It's something wrong with that there. Again, maybe because our parents didn't teach us what to look for, maybe because they didn't stress stability to us, but a lot of us don't want that kind of good man until we get into our 40s and we've been through hell and we're so worn out by that point. Like I said, what good man is going to want you by then? Everybody else has had you. They haven't had to do anything for you. And now all of a sudden you find a good man and you expect him to, you know, take care of you and be there for you and be nice to you. Why does he want to? Nobody else did in the last 20, 30 years. It doesn't make sense. Our thinking is just so corrupted. And like I said, only thing that I can think or I can blame it on is the media over the last few years, not just TV, but music, hip hop, all of this stuff. I haven't seen Scandal. I tried to watch it. I watched like a half an episode and I didn't get into it. So I stopped watching it. Maybe I might have seen what the big deal is if I would have went further, but I just went to the next thing. About the most explicit book I've read is like Terry McMillan, which ain't all that bad by today's standards. But I think constantly feeding on that and not having the sense to be able to decipher it and, you know, see the plan behind why all this is being put out to us, has set us up for failure. It's gotten to the point where junior high children and elementary school children are so fast. Like, some of them have more experience than a grown woman. I know girls like that. I'm like, you did what? And you just want to take them home to their mama, but you know their mama will probably applaud them. It's something going on, and I feel like we need to hold each other accountable because these images are going worldwide, and we are all being judged on the images of the lower class of our people, and well, not even all lower class, because people with money do the same thing. It's not even like a economical thing. It's a cultural thing, and it's going around the world, and people are judging us on it, and they're judging our men on it because they feel like a real man would be able to get this in check, and they're right. If we had a real race of men, they would have it in check, but we don't, and we're not willing to pick up the responsibility and say, I'm going to discipline myself because I feel that I have some kind of value. We're not willing to do that, and we know our men can't do it. So, I mean, where does that leave us?
Very true. That's very true. And like you said, holding each other accountable, but you can't even do that nowadays because what's the first thing that comes out of somebody's mouth? One or two things. Don't judge me, or it goes into the realm of outright defensiveness of how you figure you're going to tell me what to do. Don't try to tell me anything. You can't tell me anything. And so, like, that's a real thing to whereas even if you want to do that for your sister, you're not able to do that because of this, European individualized mindset that says, I am an individual, I am me. Anything that I do is solely focused on me without realizing that that's not who we are as a people. That's not where we come from. Where we come from and how we operate, especially on an instinctive level, is everything I do is interconnected to my brother and sister. So anything that I do reflects upon you, reflects upon me, it reflects upon the community, it reflects upon the nation, it reflects upon my family, all of us. So when you take that and go against our nature and you turn that into individualism in terms of, you can't tell me what to do. What I do is none of your business. And, that's not a problem. Then, it is a problem because, you can't hold anybody accountable. They're not going to listen to you. They're not open to any kind of advice because of the fact that in your mind, you're an individual. You're the only one that has anything to do with the actions that happen in your family, in your household, on your street. So why do you care about what's happening in your community? Why do you care what's going on with the children? Why do you care what's going on with your sister, with your brother, with anybody else in, your global community of black people? It's a thing to whereas, again, even if we wanted to, we can't because of the fact that we've been so brainwashed into self-centered individualism that nobody is going to listen when you do try to hold each other accountable and enforce that sense of, all of us are in this together. And if I'm going to take care of myself, then I'm going to take care of you too because, we're a people. We're not just individuals. So, I feel like holding each other accountable would be wonderful. It would be great. But how do we do that? How do you even start to make that happen when you can't? That's not a real thing to try and tell somebody something because how's that? How you going to do that? I just don't know how to do that nowadays.
I hear you. And on a large scale, I don't think you can. I know me and my little small circle, we started doing that back in the early 2000s because we'd be sitting there, we'd be mad at our husbands, and we call because we always want to cry and complain to each other. So we call about to say how big and bad our husbands were. And the first thing we started asking is, okay, what did you do? And even if the husband was in the wrong, we say, okay, yeah, but what did you do? Okay, he did that. Well, what did you say? How did you react? And we started holding each other accountable. And it got to the point where either we didn't call each other no more because we already knew that, we was going to have to admit to some stuff we didn't want to admit to because it's never a one-sided thing. Or, we would call and we would hear that, okay, well, sister, did you think that if you would have said it this way, maybe he would have reacted better? Now, that's in a relationship. I know that's a little bit different than women running the streets, but we need to do that at least in our own circles. I say all the time, I used to work for a healthcare company. and I would basically fill in people's applications for them. They would tell me all of their health problems, and I would go ahead and decide, fill out the application, help decide if they were going to get insurance or not. If people only knew the amount of people that had like herpes and other sexually transmitted diseases, they had things going on that you didn't even think was possible to have going on, and they were like nonchalant about it. Some of them never got treatment. Some of them have had these things like multiple times. Some people, it would just blow your mind if you had heard some of the stories that I had heard. And that was enough to make sure that I ain't having nothing to do with none of this madness. This is crazy. But, when we hear about like disease going around and all this stuff going around, it all comes back to our lack of morals. And if we don't get it together, there's not going to be any hope. And, there's some of our people that they're just not going to make it. And it's not even worth our time to spend a lot of time on them, because either they're going to decide to do right or not. More likely than not, no, they're not going to do right. And so they're just going to have to go and wither away and live out their little hellish existence. That's fine. But the people who are willing to make a change and do see a need for change and just need guidance, I think we need to be there to guide them. And those people who we're close to, who do value our opinion, we do have to start holding them responsible, because so often, like you said, even with the sexual liberation thing, people will think, oh, that's cute, because they've heard the white people say it, white females say it, and they think it's cute. And it's only when somebody pulls their card and say, do you really know what you're saying? That somebody will stop and think, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. I had to pull somebody's card on social media because they actually came out in a public forum. I'm like, do you realize that like this is global? Like you post something, you can't take it back. And they posted something like, their men had to be a certain way physically. And I had to tell her, like, sis, do you know how you just made yourself sound? How many different people did you have to be with to become this expert that you know exactly what dimensions you need things to be and all this other kind of stuff? Do you realize how that sounds? Another girl had said, I'll date any race of men. Okay, well, do you understand that you just basically said you have no standards? You're open for the world. Do you see how you sound when you say these things? And they had to think about it. And they went back and deleted their post. It was too late. We already saw that madness. But right. Sometimes they'll be receptive. Not the general public, but I think people that we're close to maybe. And if they're not, then they might not be people that we necessarily need in our close circles. Some of those people we're going to have to keep at a distance, because those people can also affect you. If you have those kind of low-class people always whispering in your ear, sooner or later it'll have to take effect. You get in an argument with your man or something like that, and usually, you just sleep it off and be cool the next morning. You have that kind of woman in your ear, all of a sudden you start thinking things that you may not have normally thought. You watching Scandal, you might start thinking things and different solutions that you may not have considered otherwise. And so, like you said, it's a lot of seed planting, and we have to start planting seeds in the other direction, even if it's not preaching, even if it's just voicing our displeasure, like, wow, that's how you are? That's really how you want to be seen? That's how you want to portray yourself? Anything like that to let them know this isn't cool, because right now we live in a society where anything goes and they think it's okay.
Indeed, that's true. And I would add on to that the age of internet and social media has really, really exacerbated this problem. Because I find that I don't necessarily mess around with any of the other social media platforms regularly, like Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. But Facebook is absolutely a problem when it comes to displaying to the world. Because I think we forget, especially with the ability to limit who we accept and request as friends, that this is a global platform. This is like an infinite platform, Facebook. So when it comes to, posting to the world what's going on inside your mind, this has brought, like, degeneracy to a whole new level. And I have been able to observe on Facebook what several sisters are really like when it comes down to, how you react and respond when certain topics are brought up in public forums like Facebook groups, what you say, what you don't say, especially the like feature when it comes to statuses and comments both. You cannot say anything Or alternatively, you can get on Facebook in the morning and say that there's a status posted at 8 o'clock, and it could be about something that's perfectly valid, like, a question about women's health, women's sexual health. Perfectly righteous, perfectly valid. There's nothing wrong, and you genuinely want to know because it's a matter of, your feminine health. You've liked that status at like 8 in the morning. You get back on around lunchtime. For whatever reason, it has generated into a conversation that is, and notice I said the word to generate, into a conversation that has turned into not only about sex, but sex phrased in a way that turns into that sexual liberation. So you sit up there and you've liked that comment, and that reflects on you because whoever comes across that is seeing that you like that. You like that status. So now people are assuming things about you. And Facebook is very good for letting other people on your timeline or other people who you are friends with know what it is you're doing elsewhere on Facebook. So that's the thing about Facebook and degeneracy, social media and degeneracy. Like, you have to be, they're not mindful of how they're saying things and how they're putting things and what they're even putting out there. And there have been plenty of times where I've been on Facebook and I'm like you said, expressing that displeasure. Wow, that's really what you feel? That's what you're thinking right now? That's okay to you? And people really don't think because of the fact that it is an internet medium and they just type it and then they walk away, or they type it and put their phone away, and then they're not realizing how that's coming off or the assumption that people are getting. So that's where, another area where it gets really, really bad because, it's kind of like you are not realizing how that is, what's the word I'm looking for? Something that is immortalized once you put it out there. You can delete it, but you can't take it back. So people see that all the time, and so they're forming opinions of you. They're thinking this, that, and the third about you, and it's a problem. So whereas even if you've corrected yourself and you say, oh, I see that this is wrong, I shouldn't have done that, I understand where I did the wrong at, you may not be able to fix the fact that somebody saw, that you said this, or you were on a status going back and forth saying this, or that you liked, retweeted, or did whatever. People have that impression of you in their mind, and impressions are really hard to shake. Perceptions are really hard to shake, so that's something that's contributing to that as well. And I think that, that's something that, like you said, if even if you can't hold somebody accountable, just express your displeasure, even if you got to go as far as deleting somebody, so that stuff is not in your face, that's not around you, and that's not polluting your mindset, because you have to be exposed to the fact that clearly, like I said, they just don't have no home training and they don't understand things like this.
Exactly. And I'm going to go to the phone line in just a moment. The call-in number is 760-569-7676. Participation code is 948656#. And you're right about deleting somebody. I deleted somebody a while ago, and I think I may have added them back because I forget exactly who it was. I think it might be the same person, though. But I was going down my timeline, and I see a picture of a prominent singer basically naked. And this is somebody that does not present herself like that. That's somebody who is always covered and respectable. And I'm like, wow, this obviously was a picture that was leaked, wasn't supposed to be out. And I was just sitting there like, and this was a woman that posted it. I'm like, why would you post this picture? Obviously, this woman carries herself in this way because she doesn't want the world to see her naked. Why would you expose this? Why would you carry it on? And it was something like, talking about, full-figured women or attractive kind of thing. I get that, but it doesn't need to be in that way. We look at this sister all the time and think she's very attractive, So, I did. I deleted her for that reason, because I'm sitting there, and I posted about it too when I did it. Like, this is ridiculous. We don't even think enough of each other to try to keep each other appearing virtuous. When you finally have somebody going out of their way to appear like that, you still want to bring them down to the level of a whore. And it was just sad to me. But we need to start doing more of that. When you see people who are promoting filth or who just aren't thinking about what they're doing, either send them a message or deleting them or whatever. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. Some of us get so dramatic. Oh, I'm deleting this person, but we ain't got to do all that. just click delete. And if they come back and say, why are we not friends anymore? Well, I really don't stand for this and this and this, or I don't like seeing this in my timeline, so, I had to let you go. I don't want to be surrounded with that kind of stuff. And I think that goes over just fine. Either they're going to be like, forget you then, or they're going to be like, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from and improve. It's their decision, but we don't need to be surrounded by that all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and go on to the phone lines. We'll see if our callers have anything to add to the conversation tonight, because I feel like I've been talking too much. 2297, you're live. 2297. All right. Now, when I come to you, if you don't have anything to say, you can just say you're just listening, and we'll keep going right down the line. 0024, you're live on War on the Horizon. 0024. Oh, they must like hearing us talk because they don't want to contribute. 2168, you're live on War on the Horizon.
Hotep, I want to tell you this is a great show, and I'm definitely impressed by both of you in terms of the work that you've dedicated your lives to doing and to instilling African pride and a sense of who we are as a people and our babies. And everything that you said tonight has been dead on, and I'm in total agreement. The thing for me, though, is that when it comes to our sisters and their mind states, I cannot see it outside of the vacuum of the influence of what our indoctrination into this cracker society has done and the resulting effects in our behavior that is being expressed today. For example, studying our history, the one time I did see Scandal, I could not help but to see it in the context of modern-day plantation. The character that Kerry Washington plays is no more than what would occur during slavery as her being what would be classified as a house slave. You know what I'm saying? Remove the backdrop of the 21st century and the White House and take it back a couple of hundred years, and that's a plantation house, and she's being sexually brutalized by the white cracker master. And I think that's part of our problem as women. We don't have that historical context about what happened to us as African women when we had no control over our bodies and they could do any and everything to us. And this society, this white society, has it's perverted sexually, and it is hypersexual, and you see it in the behavior of our babies. So for me, I just think the major problem is that our sister minds are, again, indoctrinated into this perverted white culture. And until they get that mind free from that by being introduced to the history that they haven't been introduced to, I don't see the behavior changing. And I like your sister's opinions on that.
And I think that that's very true. You're extremely right, and I like how you mentioned that, if you change out the current timeline from the 21st century and, pushed it back a couple of hundred years, you would see it for what it is. My opinion is I would take that a step further and just state it plainly. The White House is the plantation house. There is no change from that. The White House is a big, huge White House that the white master lives in. She works in that house for him, and it is absolutely acknowledged by his white wife, the mistress of the house, what she was doing, what was going on, what her role is, and the only thing that is different is that what they're doing is not illegal. What they're doing is not something that is actively against the law because she's technically not a slave anymore. So when you get down to it, it's not even a change in, the settings. It's more so that they've only made it to whereas, like you said, you're absolutely right. When they don't know their history, they have no idea what's actually ended. If you don't know what's going on or what has happened during slavery, how can you be sure that it's over with? How can you be sure that it's ended? And in my opinion, it has not ended. The only thing is that they've changed the laws, switched the laws around to whereas everything that was, outright blatantly forbidden back then is not as much anymore. It's just frowned upon. So I think that's the only real change in, what you see on Scandal and then what used to happen back then or what's even going on now is what you're doing is not technically against the law. That's all. So I think it's very important, and I'm very glad that you brought that up for us to know our history, because if you don't know what has happened, you can't be sure if it is stopped, you can't be sure if it is changed, and you can't be sure if it's something that is even right and exact because you don't know what happened before. So, especially if you start at a certain point, anything else beyond that point, if that's a negative point you started at, it looks like progress. So that was a very excellent point that you brought up, and I absolutely agree.
I agree as well. And not only that, but we have to realize how this cracker works, because the cracker does little stuff to exonerate himself. I've been hearing more and more lately crackers talking about, well, black people can't be mad at us for enslaving them when they were sold by their black brothers and sisters, which really is not true, but somebody's told that story and they've run with it. And when I see things like Scandal, I think the same thing, because there was a time not too long ago when they were trying to make it seem like Sally Hemings was this love story, and we were outraged by that. Like, oh, this was the rape of an enslaved African woman. How could you think that this was a love affair? How could you even, that's disrespectful to even categorize it like that. But now black women are so in love with white men that they're seeing things like Scandal going on. You see somebody sleeping with their enemy, and a lot of black women now are becoming more into white men. These are the same men that are shooting our babies on one hand, and we're giving it up on the other hand to them. So that gives them more ways to exonerate themselves and say, maybe these enslaved African women, maybe it wasn't rape. Maybe they did want it. Maybe they did love their oppressor. I mean, these people still love their oppressor. We're obviously still getting oppressed, and we love it. We have to think about the image that we're sending out when we act so reckless and so thoughtless. That's what came to my mind when you said that. I agree 100%. I just see how they crackers can absolutely try to use this to exonerate themselves, just like they're doing in other situations. So thank you very much for making that point.
Ashe, sisters, and keep up the beautiful work that you both are doing. And I support you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, sister.
Very, very good call. Very good call. Very good points there. All right. 3759, you're live on War on the Horizon.
I'm just listening.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening. All right. We'll move on to 8438. You're live on War on the Horizon.
Bibi Faudier, sister. I'm just listening.
Bibi Faudier, thanks for calling in. I think I know who that is. I ain't going to call him out, though. I could be wrong. I ain't got that number memorized. I think I know who that is, though. All right. 6142, you're live on War on the Horizon. Six 6142. All right. Sound like they're taking care of some babies there. This better not be whoever it is.
That's on the other end. That's my niece. She wanted to participate in the conversation about African liberation.
Hey, that's what's up. She got something to say.
Yes. Got the babies in the background listening.
All right. 8063. You're live. 8063. All right. I thought that was somebody, maybe not. Okay. 099. You're live. More on the horizon.
Hello?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Are y'all talking about Scandal?
Yes, and just degeneracy and the black woman. Are you able to cut off the radio and turn down the volume so that we don't hear the feedback?
Okay, I had it on speaker so that my fiance could listen to it with me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're just getting a little bit of feedback from that.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's much, much better. We're just talking about not only Scandal, but just black women, the degenerate culture, and how we seem to love it. You have anything to say about that?
I really just had a question. I didn't really understand how there are so many black women, including like my mothers, my aunts, my sisters, that love the movie or the show Scandal so much? What attracts them to that?
That is, I feel like I want to say that's a complex question, but it's really not, because when you get down to it, in my opinion, just from what I see from, my own sisters, other female friends that I have, it's the fact that, whereas we were discussing earlier in the show, there is such a lack of anything positive when it comes to black women or any representation of black women at all as anything other than low-class, worthless trash in media. When you find someone who is playing a black woman character who is in charge and she's successful and she has the power, they eat it up. They love it. And that's throwing them a bone, as I said. But the thing about it is it's a very diseased bone, to whereas she has all this success and she has all this power and she's the one who really, really runs things, but she is the same thing that you are despairing over being your only representation in media. She is that white man's whore. She is that cracker's whore. She is his sidekick. She is his mistress. She does not have anything of, anything positive going on in her intimate life and nothing fulfilling going on in her intimate life. She doesn't have healthy relationships with her parents, with her friends. She doesn't have any of the things that you want and you desire for yourself, but she has success. She has power. So basically what they're doing is reflecting back to the black woman, her current state in America, at least the black woman who is going after that and working so hard to get an education and be successful professionally. And they're reflecting that to her, and most of them can't see and understand. They're showing you exactly the position that they're putting you in, but because they're making it look glamorous, you're failing to see what all else they have going on underneath it, and you're so desperate for something positive or something that gives you some type of confidence or validation that you accept whatever it is they throw in your face without understanding that that is not something you should aspire to, that's not something you should want, and that's not acceptable, and we shouldn't accept that as something that is, positive media for us, or even something that we will tolerate as being the representation of a black woman. So I would say it's pretty simply that, we don't have anything else in media, so that when we do get a little something, we just take it and don't think twice about what it is and accept it with no questions asked.
I think that, and I think also there is a growing, it's still probably a minority, I hope it's a minority, but there's a growing segment of women, black women, that are attracted to white men. There are a growing number of black women who want to imitate white women. We grow up and we see these sitcoms and this Leave It to Beaver kind of white experience, and it's so different than what a lot of us have. A lot of women say, I like skin. It ain't about the white man. It ain't about this. It ain't about that. Personally, like I said, I've only watched a half an episode. I can't tell you why women get into it, but I can tell you it has to be something there, because I wouldn't be that enraptured in a show where some woman is being whored out by some cracker if it wasn't a part of me that appreciated that kind of thing, put it like that. And there's also, we can't forget the effect and the wide-reaching effects of sexual abuse. Most black women have been sexually abused or raped at some point in their life. And, you can deal with that in a number of ways. One way that women deal with that is just losing any sense of value or purpose that they have within themselves and then becoming promiscuous. Some women actually have an addiction to boredom. They give it up to whoever, whenever, for a number of reasons. Sometimes because they feel bad about themselves. Sometimes because they feel like they can overcome the violation by mastering that situation, maybe putting themselves in a situation similar to what they've been through and then not having it happen, and they feel like they've won even though they're putting themselves in danger over and over and over again. A lot can be said for that as well. Sexual abuse is very big in the black community, and that can really disturb somebody's mind. So I would say it's a combination of what Sister Jahari said. I would say also add in there that a lot of black women secretly wonder what it would be like to be with a white man. Maybe not physically. I don't think it's a lot of black women that's physically attracted to white men. Maybe I'm wrong. I just can't physically grasp that because they're hideous. But even if they're not physically attracted to them, they may be attracted to the power, to the status, to any of those kind of things. It's a very sick thing, but that has to play a role. There's no way you can sit there and watch a program like that, from what I've heard of it, and not have that be a draw.
Mm. Oh, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, sister. This is my first time caller. I found your information on Facebook, and thus far, I love what you guys are doing, and I will support you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling. It was great talking to you. That was a great question, and I've asked myself that many times because, like I said, I tried to watch an episode. I probably should have gave the whole thing a try, but I was like halfway through it, like, this is boring. And I just stopped watching it. So I don't know, but it just seems right to me.
Good in terms of compelling television that you just have to watch. Like I said, when I watch one, it takes me like a whole month and a half, maybe 2 months to go back and watch the next one, just because, like, to me, wanting to be with a cracker, wanting to like sexually attracted to and desire them as a mate, that's a mental illness. That's like a mental defect. Like, you really have serious problems if you think that that is something you should aspire to, and that's okay. So it really repulses me to see something like that. So it's not that I'm watching it for any type of fascination with the interaction. It's just more so I can't believe that this is real television, and that's what keeps me continuing to look at it. Like I said, I haven't seen the new season, but it's just like that shock, like this is something that's actually happening. This is real, and, it gets fascinating in that, it's so far, but you can't look away type deal for me. That's how I get through it.
Definitely. But do you think that's the majority of black women? The majority of black women, you think, are just watching it because it's like a train wreck, they can't turn away? Or you think that they're actually getting something out of it?
Oh, no, they're actually getting something out of it. I rarely find anybody. Like, I know every Thursday what pretty much 98% of black women I know. That's the only reason why I know when that comes on, because I don't watch television. But I know because they know it's Thursday, it's Scandal coming on. So, I know that's the reason why I watch it, is because I just feel like it's a train wreck in progress. But, most black women, I feel like they're watching it because they're getting something out of it.
Okay. All right, so we'll keep going down the line here. We have 0962. You're live on War on the Horizon. 0962. Okay, you don't have to hang up. Just tell me you just listening. That's all. Okay, we just went to them. All right, 7549. You're live on War on the Horizon.
I'm just listening. I don't have any questions or anything.
Okay, thank you for listening. See, that's easy. Just tell me you listening. People be hanging up like I'm going to make them talk. I ain't going to make you talk. All right. 0977, you're live on War on the Horizon. Oh, 977. All right. And 5399, you're live. 5399. All right. Now, another thing that I do want to say, and I told Sister Johari, with the technical difficulties, we didn't do a whole lot of promotion on the show, so we're just going to go, as long as we have callers, and when we don't have callers, then, if we need to end early, then we'll definitely do that. Calling number is 760-569-7676, the participation code 948656#. One thing that we didn't address, I think we need to address when it comes to degeneracy. Sometimes us in the conscious community, and trying to make our points about homosexuality and other things, I think we take it too far. Sometimes, especially on social media. Sometimes I feel like my mind has been raped by people who have the exact same beliefs as me, because they take it too far. And I'm the kind of person, like I said, because I think so much of this is media related, I really go out of my way to protect my mind. There's things that I'm not going to watch, I'm not going to look at, I'm not going to read just because it's too much. I don't want none of that nowhere in my subconscious. I'm just not going to do it. But, it was somebody the other day tagged me in a picture of two white men engaged in a homosexual act on my Facebook page. And I'm sitting there like, why would you tag me? And it's like, I know the brother and he's a strong brother. I support him. But I'm like, why would you tag me in this madness? Like, I want to see it. And not only that, but you tag me. So now other people are looking at me like I agree with this. Like, I want to see this cartoon of these two white men engaged in this. And I see a lot of that. Does that bother you when you see that coming from the nationalist community, or do you just think it's something that needs to be done to expose things?
Oh, no, that bothers me a whole lot. That bothers me so much so to the point to whereas lately I've really been having a serious, debate with myself as to whether or not I even want to stay on Facebook because of the fact that it's like you said, in the name of, letting people know that this is not all right and look, this is how things really are, and basically, I know you don't know that this is what's really going on, so I'm going to just show you. I think that people take it way too far because it's like, sometimes a explanation will suffice. You don't have to put visual aids up. You don't have to give us, all of these long and involved, visual, visual aids. And that's the thing that really gets me. Like, I can deal with reading most things, but there are certain images that I do not want in my mind, no matter how crucial it is for me to know what it is that, I'm looking at when it comes to certain types of degeneracy. I don't need that picture in my mind. I don't need that image floating around in my mind. So, like you said, when people, and it's like I said, about Facebook, tagging, letting other people know what you've been tagged in, what you liked, what you commented on, who shared what, you commented on somebody else's status. Like, it has become a real problem in terms of, because this is one of our biggest platforms, people will, basically have other people having certain impressions of you. Or, you'll see that this person is discussing, this issue on this person's timeline, and I'm like, I don't want to see that because whatever it is y'all doing, that's something I could have gone without. That's something I could have dealt with, not seeing, not hearing about, not, especially when it comes to videos, which are being played. Facebook will play them automatically when you're scrolling down your timeline without giving you a chance to press play yourself or avoid it. So there are lots of things that you see from the nationalist community that it's like, why did you have to do that? Why did you have to put that up there? So it's a real issue, and, I see it as, I know you're coming from a good place, but that's not something I wanted to see, and I don't think that that's necessary because, again, it goes back to impressions and perceptions, I don't want people thinking that, I'm involved in, certain types of degeneracy that you are intent on exposing, and then not understanding that, that's a type of degeneracy that you're exposing. And you doing it because that's a certain type of degeneracy, and you trying to let me know because you're going to tag me in it to get it out there and spread the information further. Not everybody understands that. So they're going to be like, oh, what kind of people she associating with? What kind of things are going on? What's she really involved in? Because not everybody gets that. So, I think that that's a real problem. And if it gets too much for me, I just delete people because I don't do degeneracy fields in any way at all whatsoever. So, I don't have nothing against you. But if you get to be doing too much, I will just delete you and we have to part ways because, it's not necessary for me to be stressed out going on Facebook just because I'm worried about what I'm going to see on my timeline. And that's way too much. So I do agree that that is a problem, a very big problem.
Now, when you first approached me about doing this program, do you remember what the cause of that was? I never did get that story because when we first started out, I picked scandal as a picture just because I'm tired of hearing black women talk about it, and it just symbolizes what we're becoming and what we're accepting. But you had said something was going on. There was a conversation or something that had really got to you, and that's why you wanted to do the program.
It is mainly the fact that the girls that I work with, like you said, they are grown women, but because they don't have that, that maturity or that, what's the word I'm looking for, that maturity or that decency about them. I see them as girls. I mean, all of them are older than me. So, it's more so to the fact whereas I go to work and, I'm working long shifts, in graveyard shifts, and I have to deal with those type of conversations all night long. And, it's a thing to where it gets worse and worse and worse because, like you mentioned earlier in the program, that's just what they're talking about. You at work, you're just having conversations, and, I forget what the exact thing was that set me off and made me Facebook inbox you, but it was just more so to the point to where, these are things that people have to deal with in the workplace. I know that these are the conversations that, and they were, degenerate conversations, things that, this just happened last night. I was like, you really at work having this conversation? You have a surveillance system. So our district manager could be watching, the owner of the company could be watching, and listening to the fact that you're just sitting here at his place of business having this conversation, out here on the sales floor. It's not really a big deal to you. You really don't care. And so, it's just a thing to whereas where did all the decency go? And this is like a very this is an all-day, everyday, constant thing, and it just made me wonder, does anybody else go through this, or is it just me to whereas I feel like I literally can't walk out my house without having this come at me from all sides? And it's not even a purposeful thing. That's just what you come across in black women nowadays.
Definitely. All right, we got one more caller here. I'm going to see if she has anything to add to the conversation. 0024, you're live on War on the Horizon.
Hey, sisters, good evening. I really appreciate what you're doing. I'd like to congratulate you, basically, on being authors and being two young, dynamic, and beautiful black women. As a former bookseller myself, basically, I congratulate you on writing children's books, because a lot of the adults, they don't read. In a lot of cases. But they do buy books for children. So, like myself, I do buy books for my children. We're homeschooling, so I really appreciate that. I didn't really have anything to say, but I just wanted to call in and listen to you. And in reference to work, I do agree. I used to work in a lot of call centers. And basically, I don't know what it is with our sisters, befriending a lot of gay men. Particularly white gay men. I was just always thought that was kind of weird. But other than that, I really appreciate you. Thank you. I buy your work. I support you 100%. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Walaikum salam. Thank you for calling in. All right. Well, I guess that could be the topic that I'm going to let you close out on. We didn't even touch that degeneracy. Black women, or I should say, bags and the black women that love them. Boom, take it away.
Yeah, because I didn't think, not that I didn't think about it, but in my mind, that's such a violation of so many things that I'm just like, because I say that often. If you are a black woman and you have, fags for friends, especially black male fags, you have absolutely no room at all whatsoever to say anything about there are no good men. There are no good black men. We don't, where is all the manhood at? Because look at what you befriending. Look what you defending. Look what you, giving love to and supporting and being affectionate to. And, what the brother said, that, we have this thing as black women. First it was white women who do it, but it seems like we are intent on outdoing white women when it comes to their degeneracy. Like, you can do it, I could do it better. So it's kind of like, the gay best friend. And I don't know what it is about the fact that, I think about this often because, my sister is one of those black females who has gay friends. And I don't understand how you have a fag for a friend. I don't get that. But that is a real thing, and she doesn't see anything wrong with it at all whatsoever. That's her friend. And it's a real thing that, where these women, they feminize these fags in their mind. So whereas it's like, I'm your female friend. I'm your sister. That creature right there is not. Don't equate us. Don't put us on the same level. He is not one of the girls. it is not one of the girls. So don't put us in the same circle or put us on the same level of equality, because when you do that, then that's an insult to me. That's a violation to me, because you put me on the same level of something that is an abomination, something that is so unnatural and, full of the filthiest degeneracy that you'd ever want to come across. And you basically telling me this is what I think of you as a friend if I'm going to sit up here and say, he's just one of the girls, and I'm glad that I am in a workplace where it is all females. We don't have, any males that are in my workplace, because I'm almost positive that that's something that would motivate me to quit, because I can't deal with that. I can't deal with that. I can't accept that. That's unacceptable to me. But that is a very real thing, that black women, for whatever reason, have this attachment to, fags as friends. And I just don't understand why it is we are so dedicated to making sure that, that's our number one friend and go-to, And it's bad enough when it's a white fag, but when it's a black fag, that's just a whole nother level of, a whole nother level of confusion and degeneracy that I just really can't wrap my mind around. So, the brother was very, very right. And, I'm fortunate that I don't have to deal with that in this particular workplace, but I've seen it, and I see it all the time. And, that's as much of a problem as, hypersexuality and having no other sense of morality or decency, is that you actively go out and seek the things that are degenerate, and you befriend it, and you love it, and you accept it and celebrate it. And fags are one of those things that, we are so accepting and loving of them as black women that, that's the reason why it's so out of control in this community. It's because you have to go through the black woman in order to get to the fag. You have to go through the black woman in order to make anybody else realize that this is a problem. And when we really dig our heels in and we really decide that this is something that, if something is anything to be defended or protected, then you can't get through us. You can't make us see any type of particular reason about it. And for whatever reason, that has become fags, and that's extremely detrimental. That's something that actually scares me about the future, that black women are just so accepting and, put so much advocacy into faggotry that, I can't even think about what that means for the future. And it's really a genuinely frightening thought.
Well, you've definitely made a good point about us trying to out-cracker the cracker. We do that. We do that constantly. But, I don't think that we're really thinking. We know so little about homosexuality because it's so foreign to us that we really just don't understand. But, to the black women that's doing that, do realize that when you have a cracker and you let them get close to you and they all over at your house and they helping you do your hair and pick out your clothes, understand that he's going to end up molesting your son sooner or later. Understand that. Understand if you got a man and your man is receptive to that, he's going to end up sleeping with your man. He's going to end up destroying your family. But, yeah, that little son that you want to grow up to be this strong black man, he's going to molest your son. That's definitely a problem. But another thing that a lot of us don't realize is that most homosexuals are not 100% homosexual. There are a lot of these so-called straight women, and you want to know why they're hanging around with fags? A lot of times they're having sex with those fags. I knew somebody back in the day who claimed to be a lesbian, and she told me, yeah, I'm a lesbian, but, if I have sex with a man, it's going to be my gay friend. She had a gay black male friend. It's a whole different level of sickness and degeneracy that I don't even like getting into because it makes my stomach turn when you think about it. But it makes no sense. There's no rhyme, no reason to it. But, yeah, we're trying to out-cracker the cracker, and we're willing to give up our son's manhood in order to do it because 9 times out of 10, that's what they're hanging around for. They ain't worried about hanging with no women. They're worried about getting to your children. We have one more caller here, 8118. You're live on War on the Horizon. 8118. All right, I guess they're just listening in. All right, Sister Johari. Well, it looks like we've come to the end of our callers.
Peace.
Still there?
Peace.
Peace.
Hello?
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, this is Priceless Wisdom from Facebook. I totally agree with everything ladies are saying. I think it's definitely something that we need to stop appreciating and stop edging on. You know, we're actually giving them the keys to, you know, the black woman, and that's definitely got to stop.
Definitely agree with that. Do you have anything else for us tonight?
That's it.
All right. Okay, my computer is acting a little weird here, so let's see. Okay, there you are. Let me go on and mute you back. Okay. And we have a couple of anonymous callers that just called in the last minute. Look, y'all gonna stop waiting till the last minute to call in here. You gonna have me try to wrap up this show like 50 million times. Okay. Anonymous caller, you're live on War on the Horizon. Anonymous caller. Okay, I'm going to assume that they are listening in. All right. Anonymous caller, you're live on War on the Horizon.
Habibi Zahodia, Queen. This is Nessa Tori. I'm just tuning in to make sure the program is running okay. Y'all do an excellent job, though.
Habibi Zahodia, thank you. All right, that's my sister. Now, for some reason, okay, there we go. Now it's letting me mute people and unmute people. Computer was tripping for a minute. All right. So Sister Johari, it seems like unless somebody calls in the next couple minutes, we're at the end of the program. So can you give some contact information for people who are interested in buying your books or reaching out to you in some way?
As I said, I will forward a link to my direct Create Space page so that the book can be ordered from there, because Amazon likes to play funny little games, and I don't like to direct people to my Amazon page, but y'all are always more than welcome to leave a review on my Amazon page. And I am in the process of building up my website so that when I start releasing the rest of my books towards the end of 2014 and into 2015, I can go ahead and sell them through my website. But other than that, I'm always available to be reached on Facebook at Johari Wisdom. If you type in that name, it will pull up my page, and everything about my writings is right there on my page.
Awesome. Well, it's been a wonderful show. Again, as always, it's great to have you here. I like having you on the show because I ain't got to say that much. I hate talking. I can just sit back and you can just handle it. You need to have your own program. So I thank you very much for inboxing me and giving me this topic and for your participation today.
Thank you, sister, for having me, as always.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right. So, again, I think I've lost my ability to mute people. Let's see. I'm going to try. Okay. So, I do thank everybody for tuning in today. As always, it's been a pleasure. I love hearing from everybody, hearing your comments, and just knowing that we ain't the only people out here who feel like this. Because sometimes you start to think like you're the one crazy. The world is so crazy. They make you think that they're normal, and you're the one that's insane. So, I love hearing from all y'all. I thank everybody that called in tonight. Again, you can get Confense's Private Parts at authorangela.freeman.com or on Amazon, and be on the lookout for Sankofa 2. It will be on its way very soon, probably within the next 2 weeks. If you were one of the people who were pre-ordered, I have your books ordered, and as soon as I get them, I will autograph them and send them out to you. Those who missed out on that, just keep on looking on Facebook and Twitter, and I will let you know when it's available on Amazon. Everybody have a great evening.
White supremacy, you thought that you could finish ever, but my elders told me you're my motherfucking enemy. Sit down in energy to come at you relentlessly, and I won't give up till there's justice for what you did.